Welcome into a brand new edition of the Patriots Hub podcast. Alex Barth, Matt Dolloff with you from 98.5 thesportshub.com, coming to you after day one of two Patriots minicamp practices. It was originally scheduled 3. It is now 2. Mike Vrabel telling us there will be some sort of non-practice team event on Wednesday to wrap up the spring. So just about there, the penultimate practice, Matt, of the spring for the Patriots. It was a lot of carryover from what we saw through OTAs. Mike Vrabel told us it would be as much. You kind of figure when there's not a lot of, there's no pads, there's no contact. They did get a little more involved in the red zone. That was the big note of the day. Before we get to any specifics, I guess if you just had a general takeaway from today's practice.
The red zone was the thing that stood out to me as far as something that we didn't see in previous practices, right? So I guess that's a sign that they are progressing. They haven't stagnated. There hasn't been something where Vrabel says we still need to work on this and that. He feels like that they could take a step forward here now that they're in the first day of minicamp. And so I feel like that alone is a step forward from the past 2 seasons, Barth, where the offense just felt like it could never really get anything going. And I know we're still in the very early stages, and Vrabel mentioned that as well. Like they're still making the basic installs and things like that. This is mainly the passing camp, and a lot of that is just installing the system and making sure they got the basic plays down, make sure they got the basic execution down. Like the intensity isn't going to ramp up until really they put the pads on a month and a half from now. But I think just the mere fact that they were able to graduate to a red zone session or two in the team drills is a sign that they are sort of making progress.
And it felt like a healthy back and forth, and that you don't want, in this setting, you don't really want either side running away from it. You don't want the defense just completely taking over and the offense doing nothing, and you don't want it the other way around either. So I thought it was just a good back and forth day. The offense had its moments, the defense had its moments. It felt competitive. It felt balanced, and that hasn't been the case here the last few years. These practices haven't exactly been balanced. They've been heavily favored by the defense.
Yeah, no, defense was winning the day over and over again early on in camp the last 2 years. So this year feels like the offense is starting to finally get a little bit of an upper hand there. And then, they have a little bit more talent, certainly a quarterback. And, the combination of the quarterback and the offensive coordinator feels like it's the best that it's been since, I don't know. That's the best since Mac Jones's rookie year, right? Rookie year, Mac Jones and Josh McDaniels. Like, I guess you got to compare it to that. We're now 4 years later. Finally, we have a talented young quarterback in Drake May. We'll see how close to his ceiling he can get, but he's certainly got the physical talent. And Josh McDaniels, to me, is a good offensive coordinator, good play caller. He knows how to draw plays and all that. And like that alone, like it sounds like crazy. Like, wow, they have an offensive coordinator that can draw up plays, but it's like they didn't really have that the last 2-3 years, Marthy. So like, I feel like we at least see like something materializing in terms of the quarterback out there making plays, making calls. And there's actually sort of a rhyme or reason to what they're doing on offense. And it feels like there is some sort of actual coordination. And so I think that's probably why we're seeing a little bit more progress from the offense, and they're making a little more of noise out there against the defense compared to what we saw in years past, because they couldn't get out of their own way the last few years. And so, look, we'll see how good they can be. We'll see what the ceiling is with this whole system the way it is. But like, I just think those mere facts shows that, they're back to having at least a competent, representative NFL offense this year.
And along those lines, Drake May continues to look more comfortable. This is kind of that trend we saw throughout the spring. And as I've said before, like, it's not linear, right? We didn't see every practice, but I thought he was solid again today. Maybe not quite as good as he was on Monday. I thought he had 1 or 2 minor misses early, but when they got in the red zone, which can be tougher, there's less space to operate. It felt like he really kind of played his best football of the day. And he continues to look more comfortable. And I thought it was interesting when he said after practice, he was asked about just getting comfortable in Josh McDaniels' offense and getting used to it and learning the offense. And he mentioned, that's something you got to do, and it's a process and all that. But he mentioned at the same time, and this is something that hasn't gotten talked about as much, and I guess I understand why, but he also mentioned getting on the same page as the new receivers, right? And he's got Kyle Williams, who's out there with him a good amount. Afton Chisholm's still running with him a little bit. You've also, Stephon Diggs is starting to be in the mix, and he's still limited, but he'll be in the mix more. And that's something he's got to work. And even with some of the returning receivers, getting their timing down as they're learning the new offense, because the timing changes. It's a big part of this offense is timing. So it's hardly a finished product. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is, if they look like this week one, it will be great, but you can see them making the progress Drake May and collectively as a group.
Yeah, like if we want to nitpick, there was a little moment today where we couldn't tell exactly what Vrabel was saying, and we can't quote him like exactly what he was saying on the field anyway. But he was something about the huddle and something about just sort of the way Drake May was surveying the field. They didn't complete the pass, and after the play, they put Josh Dobbs in, or one of the backups went in after, and Vrabel has
Dobbs, yeah.
some animated conversation with May, throwing his arms, like spreading his arms out like this. Like, you got to see the whole field. You got to look at it as a whole picture. That felt like the tenor of the conversation there. And so, like, procedurally, look, like there's little moments there where maybe it's not as consistent. It's not as perfect as they want to be at this point. But again, it's still early. And I asked Drake May after practice, like, how do you feel about the whole pre-snap procedure and things like that? Because again, like, not to hammer it, but like not to keep comparing it to last year, Barth, but I felt like coming in and out of the huddle was a thing in camp that they had to work on a lot. And so
it was.
That, again, that's another thing that looks better. And and they got to make progress just in all the procedural stuff in terms of everybody getting on the same page and everybody learning the system and all that. But yeah, it looks like there's progress being made in terms of everybody being on the same page and knowing what they got to do in terms of what the play is, and they're all seeing the field the same way. I think there are signs that progress is being made there.
Let's talk about the receivers, and today was the speed guys showing up. And now look, this is a passing camp. It's non-contact. There's no pads. Like, this is built for the guys with speed. Tyquan Thornton. Somebody was texting me today that apparently Tyquan Thornton is all the buzz out in Kansas City right now.
That's hilarious. Yeah, love that.
But that's what Tyquan does in spring. Yeah, I just looked it up. And in the first tweet, when you type in Tyquan Thornton, deep ball back, ? Patrick Mahomes dropping absolute bombs, and Tyquan Thornton is flaunting that 4.2 speed. We've seen this. We've lived this. So that, it comes with a caveat, but this is an offense that has lacked speed, speed with talent in recent years. And you saw it today. Pop Douglas, there was like a deep out route that he ran that was nice, but like, I don't know that there was one play where it was like, oh my God, wow, Pop Douglas. Like, he was consistently open in getting the football, caught a touchdown from Drake May. Anybody worried about his fit in the offense and where is he going to land? He's going to have a role. I think he's going to be fine. The other guy that showed up with some speed was Kyle Williams, who with Josh Dobbs ran a go ball up the seam and just burned by the linebacker. I mean, just like really burned by him, and then kind of created a window with his angle where the safety wasn't right on top of him, and Josh Dobbs was able to put the ball right on him and lead him away from the safety for what would have been in a game like a 50-something yard touchdown. So that's the second deep ball we've seen him catch this spring. So that speed element, they're going to need that in this offense. And those are the two guys really that can give it to him. And I thought they both showed up with it today.
Yeah, that deep ball down the middle, I thought that was Drake May that threw that ball to Kyle Williams. I could be wrong, but it was definitely whoever threw it. It was definitely a dime that was dropped over the shoulders of the linebacker and the safety. He split the defense going down the field, and he had a step on them. And so, like, that's a thing that a lot of Patriots receivers haven't had that. Like, I guess this is becoming a theme, Barth. I'm going to compare everything to the last 2 years. They haven't had speed at receiver either, and so they have that. And I thought that was good that Kyle Williams, caught that ball, because that's a question about him, is that, like, going deep down the field, he'll get open. He explodes off the line of scrimmage. Can he finish the play? And he finished the play. That was a perfect opportunity for the ball to go right through his hands and everyone to sigh and be like, oh, missed opportunity. But he finished that play. And so I thought that was a good sign for him. There was another play that definitely was Drake May that was more down the right sideline, I think, to Kyle Williams, where he had a step on the cornerback. And I think it was, again, one of the backup cornerbacks. But this is a good play for Drake May. I thought he dropped it over the D-back's shoulder, and it was a perfectly placed ball. And so, like, that's where, going back to Drake May, I wonder about the consistency of the accuracy on the throws. Like, we know he's capable of making those drop in the bucket throws. And so it was great to see some of that today. But, like, there was less I thought there was less spraying the ball all over the place, which we saw a little bit of in OTAs with Drake May, and Kyle Williams was definitely a beneficiary of that on that one play.
Yeah, Drake May was a lot more accurate, that's for sure. And they were working on the deep ball today when they weren't in the red zone. When they were in the red zone, we saw the running backs more involved in the pass game. Travion Henderson caught a touchdown from Drake May on a Texas route. Saw Ramondre Stevenson catch a couple passes with Josh Dobbs. Lan Larison made a great catch, ran a wheel route. Dobbs put it up over the defender. Larison went out and got it. So that's a Josh McDaniels staple, right? Throwing the ball to the wide receivers throwing the ball to the running back, in the red zone. And we got to see them work on a little bit of that today. The tight ends, not so much. Hunter Henry had a good day. CJ Dupree had a drop in the red zone. Like that third tight end position is still open, but we got to see that they really have just been throwing the ball to the receivers so far in Hunter Henry. We got to see them throw to some other guys today when they moved into the red zone.
Yeah, and Austin Hooper's back out there too, and so that was good to see. Good to see him back in the mix. The thing that stood out to me about the short passes and the pass to the running back, Barth, is that it felt like it was more by design than plays.
Yeah, these weren't checkdowns. Yeah, that's a good point.
These weren't like, well, this is all we got, or the quarterback has no time to throw. This was specifically, we're going to block it this way. This is your read. We're going to get the ball in the running back's hands. We're going to get it to him in space. We're going to get a couple blockers in front of him, and let's go. And again, that is a Josh McDaniels thing. We're probably going to see the running backs more involved in the passing game as sort of like with purpose, a deliberate, utilization of that position in the passing game. And so I think we saw a little bit of a glimpse of that today. And I feel good about the way that they were, look, again, it's hard to tell with offensive linemen without pads, how they're blocking, how their technique's working and things like that. Vrabel noted that, like, we're not even really going to know how our O-line is playing until we actually get the pads on in July. But I thought there were a couple of good plays where at least it looked like everybody was on the same page and they knew the call before the snap. They get the ball to the running back, they get the blockers out in space. And so it looked like they were sort of cohesive there. They at least knew what they had to do. And so I thought it was notable that we're going to see more plays sort of drawn up specifically to get the running backs involved in the passing game and hopefully make big plays after the catch, break off a big run after a short catch, so to speak.
Yeah, I wanted to mention with the offensive line what Vrabel said about the guards, because this has kind of been this long-standing question, which is basically, who's going to start at left guard? It's a competition, but who's going to start out there? And Vrabel said, and look, this doesn't necessarily give us an answer, but it also gives us an answer. And this is why I like that he said that. He basically said it's too early to tell, and I want to pull up the full transcript here. I thought I had it ready, but my phone locked. But basically, he said, we won't know until the pads come on. So they're rotating it. Here it is. Quote, we'll be able to evaluate the linemen once we get to training camp. We're moving a lot of guys through there. We'll have to make a lot of those decisions and determinations once we get to training camp and there's pads and start stacking some days together. This is purely a passing camp. I don't know if we get a full evaluation without shoulder pads on as an offensive lineman. Exactly. There is no favorite at left guard right now. There is no, well, this guy's making an edge or this or that. All we were determining about that position in the spring is essentially who is in the mix. And what we've kind of figured out is it's everybody. And so it's going to be wide open going in. There's your answer. Cole Strange got the reps today. That was without Wes Schweitzer, Tyrese Robinson out there, the veterans who have been getting some time. So that comes with a little bit of a caveat. The only guy we really haven't seen there is Layden Robinson. But again, this is not really a period. It seems like where they're evaluating it. They're just getting guys ready so that they can do their best when the evaluation period starts. So I like they're taking that approach. Don't determine your guard in non-padded practices. It's going to be a little bit until we get the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's funny to think about, Barth, because it's an interesting question for us as sports hub guys. What if we were in the studio with Felger, and Felger is how Felger will drill you down.
Got to do his show today.
Hold you down and force you to answer the question who's the left guard if they had to do it today? Who's the left guard? Who's your starting left guard, Barth? Just hammering you with it. Who would you say? I mean, I guess I would say Cole Strange. I guess because he's in his fourth year. He's an athletic guy. He's got still probably a higher ceiling than a guy like Wes Schweitzer or Tyrese Robinson. And so I guess that would be my pick. for left guard. He's played left guard here before and all that. So I guess that would be my pick. But yeah, it's still incredibly wide open. And they're getting everybody, they've gotten everybody reps, right? Everybody's gotten their reps at that left guard spot.
Except Layden Robinson.
Except Layden Robinson. We've seen a lot of guys.
From what we've seen, reps. I should say. From what we've seen. We haven't seen every practice.
From what we've seen. Yeah, exactly. We weren't at all the OTAs. There's only a few of those. But today, Cole Strange was the guy. We saw City So on the right side a little bit, but again, like Michael Wenu was off to the side during that period. Like Michael Wenu's the guy at right guard. And so I guess you got to figure out the backup guards, how that's going to shake out. We saw Caden Wallace play a little guard today. It was with the backups, but I thought that was interesting that like he's a second-year tackle. I thought he would be maybe the backup right tackle, sort of really in line for that role, but we're starting to see him get reps at other spots. And so, that's still way up in the air and to be determined. And so, that's going to be something that's going to be hard to read until like not even the start of training camp, unless they throw the pads on right at the start of camp. I don't know if they're even allowed to do that.
It has to be at least 4 days. It's
4 days, right?
Probably, it's something and then you actually have to have the practices. We're not going to know after the first padded practice. Vrabel says in that quote, stacking days. That's probably something where we're going to get to like the first preseason game and really start to talk about it.
The first few training camp practices are almost like an extension of minicamp.
It's just this. It's just because the schedule's weird and they go away for 6 weeks and it's like, all right, here's everything we just did because you probably forgot it.
You were out on the boat with doing God knows what digs. And so let's give you a reminder here.
The Caden Wallace thing is interesting. So Morgan Moses was limited today. So it was DeMontre Jacobs at right tackle when Moses was out. And the team reps, which probably isn't a great sign for Wallace, but also if they want him focusing at guard, and training him at guard might be a good thing because if you look at it, some of the guys that are competing for the backup offensive line jobs, Jack Connolly can play 3 or 4 spots. He can play both guard spots, right tackle. He played left tackle in college, so he has the experience. Can he play at an NFL level? We'll see, but like that's a guy that can play multiple positions. Marcus Bryant can play both, has the experience to play both tackle positions. Again, we'll see the level, but he has the experience both tackle positions. And then if Caden Wallace can play right tackle and both guard spots, that's what and they've talked about this. That's what you want in a backup lineman because that gives them an edge over a guy like Vidarian Lowe, who can only play left tackle and that's it, or DeMontre Jacobs, who can only play right tackle and that's it. So if you keep, Vidarian Lowe, well, now you also have to keep a backup right tackle. And then that's, he's not giving you any help on the inside or anything like that. Versus if you keep Caden Wallace and he can play right tackle, right guard, and left guard, and you keep Marcus Bryant and he can play left tackle and right tackle. All right, now you're covered, and that saves you having to keep all these extra guys, right? So I think it is notable that Wallace is repping at guard because it seems to me they want him on the roster. Maybe he is still that long-term developmental right tackle, but it's, hey, that spot's covered this year. How else can you help us until that spot opens up? And that might very well be being a multi-positional backup, but you got to be able to play multiple positions. So they got to train him on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lowe's another one that hasn't been out there a ton, like in the team drills.
He's been limited.
He's been limited. And so, like that's presenting an opportunity for a guy like Bryant, rookie late round pick. Caden Wallace, he's not going to play right tackle this year if all goes well. Like Morgan Moses is going to be their guy this year. And so he's got to find a way to contribute. And so this is the football nerds and us getting into the weeds on the backup offensive lineman, right, Barthy? But
this is what we do this time of year.
It's undetermined. Like it's not all settled. The only thing that's settled, ironically, is Will Campbell has been the left tackle.
Yes.
Every single snap, every single day. Like that's the one thing. And Garrett Bradbury's at center too. As Jared Wilson has been limited.
I was going to say it comes with a caveat because Jared Wilson is dealing with something.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just like it's not much is settled there. So I guess that's something if you wanted to sound the alarms on June the 9th. Figure out what
we have to do a show today, Dolph.
We're doing the show right now, Barthy. And as of right now, I'd say about 4 spots settled on the offensive line, but not settled. Settled is too strong. It's not
clear
settled.
Starter.
Everything's unsettled.
Clear starter. Like
clear starter
left guards
at this point.
Left guard's the only question. We kind of knew that would be a question going into the summer. I wouldn't be surprised they add somebody. The thing's just all the way up in the air. So let's touch on the defense. I thought the defensive player of the day today, a guy I was glad to see have a good day because I think he's a good player. Hasn't gotten well, he was hurt, but like he hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities here the last couple of years. And that's Isaiah Bolden, the corner, third-year corner from Jackson State. Made a really good play in the red zone. They're working in the red zone. Dobbs at quarterback, and he has to check it down to the running back in the flat. And Bolden just read him the whole way, sat on it, makes the break at the right time. Would have been a very clean pick six in a game. Obviously, not a game, so not that, but like really good instinctive interception by him. Has a pass
all the way down the field.
Sprinted up with guys chasing him, including Stephon Diggs. It might have been the first time we've seen Stephon Diggs truly run full speed. He was moving. So there's that too. But yeah, had a pass break up a few plays later. You know, Bolden's a guy that it's crowded corner room. It's going to be very competitive. And there's one, maybe two spots to be won, depth spots. Now he can return kicks as well. And it seems like they're actually going to let him do that this year or compete for a chance to do that this year. So that's encouraging. But I thought there's some other guys that stood out. You know, the pass rush got it going today, but that's just, there's such an asterisk on that because it is a non-padded practice. But in the secondary, I thought Isaiah Bolden had a solid day.
Yeah, if you remember, you go back to his rookie year, like this is a guy that he was sort of popping in camp. Like they might have actually found a decent little player here. And then he had that scary injury in the preseason, and that sort of set him back. And last year, obviously, never really got it. You never really gained the traction that you were hoping for. I forget. Did he go on IR before the start of the year last year? I forget exactly the trajectory from
his rookie year.
His rookie year, right? Was last year his rookie year?
No, that was 2 years ago.
I was gonna say this is year 3 for him, right?
Yeah, this is year 3. I think he was actually the last Bill Belichick draft pick.
He might have been. It was Amir Speed.
Right. They had a bunch of 7th round picks that year. I don't remember who the last one was.
I think Bolden was the last. I think Bolden was after Bolden, Speed.
Yeah, Bolden. They had 4 6th round picks. And then Bolden was the 7th.
Yeah, they got to get rid of Bolden. They got to get rid of Bolden. They got to get rid of the Belichick remnants there. But yeah, Bolden had a good camp as a rookie, I thought. And then the injury obviously set him back, basically for a whole year after that. And so it looks like maybe he's back to, making sort of an impact, and like he's going to compete with a guy like Alex Austin for snaps. This is our first extended look at Carlton Davis playing out there with the starters on defense, and him and Christian Gonzalez are entrenched as the top 2 outside corners. And so there's going to be an interesting competition after those 2 guys. And then, Bolden is in that mix. And obviously that was a very loud play he made earlier today. I thought the throw was a little late and low by Dobbs there. But it was a good read by Bolden to jump that route and make that catch. And it's take it all the way the other way.
It's not like he made an unbelievable catch. It was more the mental side of it to get in the position. That's why it wasn't an unbelievable catch, because he was right there, right when he needed to be. The ball hit him right in the hands. What do you take away from the pass rush today? Because like I'm struggling with this. They had a couple of would-be sacks. They were pressuring May. They were making a move in the pocket, and we know this, like this overhaul defensive front. It's something people are excited about. It's something people should be excited about. But I don't use today as evidence of that. I just use today as, all right, there's no pads. It's kind of easy for them to slip around linemen who can't really block them. And that's when we still have to wait and see. But they were good today, for as good as they could be today, I guess.
Yeah, any kind of car crash type of situation, it's hard to really judge how guys are playing, how guys' techniques are, how the blocking is. Like the guys, they aren't really blocking, and the pass rushers aren't really, bowling through. It's hard. You can't really give them too much credit for bowling through an offensive lineman that's not wearing shoulder pads, and they're barely really even trying to block. So yeah, it's really more of a scheme thing. The only thing that really stood out to me about the pass rush, Barth, is that they're going to mix it up. They're going to mix up the front. The guys are going to be lining inside and outside. Even right before the snap, we saw a play where the names escape me of who it was that switched up. I think it was Christian Ellis and Keon White, I believe. Keon White was on the edge. Ellis was
right.
I think it was Christian Ellis that was inside. And he came down on the inside.
Oh, and then he came down to the edge. Yeah. It was. I know what you're talking about. It was him and Keon White.
Switched up right about now. They switched up right before the snap. Keon White comes down. He's playing inside. Ellis is playing the outside. I don't want to get too much detail there. Maybe I already did. But they're going to be switching up the defensive front there. There's going to be guys lining up at different spots. They're going to do these last minute shifts. They're going to do these things to sort of maybe confuse the offense pre-snap, or maybe catch them off guard, or find the right gap that they can attack before the snap. And, guys aren't going to be, it's not going to be just everyone lined up in the same spot every snap. It's going to be very different. It's going to be diverse, and guys are going to be switching it up. And so I think that's what's really stood out to me about the defensive front.
Anything else from practice today?
I think that really covers it. The deep safety thing continues to be a thing to watch. We saw Jabril Peppers back there. We saw the rookie. I'm going to keep forgetting the name of the rookie safety.
Craig Woodson.
I almost said Carlton something, but that's Carlton Davis. Craig Woodson's getting a decent amount of run, I think, at safety. Jalen Hawkins is out there too. And so they're really mixing up that group. I feel like that's something that needs to be determined. I don't know if they really have a guy that's like a true deep safety after this off season, but that's something that we're going to have to keep watching as far as who lines up where, who's lining up with the starters. So that's something that I think that's almost like the left guard spot on the offense. That's something that they're going to have to determine.
Yeah. And that's a tougher one, not because of the no pads, but Kyle Duggar's not, he's like out there with the team, but he's not practicing right now. He's still rehabbing. So when he's back in the mix, how does it look? So that's going to be another one of those things that we're going to have to wait and see, because is Duggar going to be just swap in at the deep spot? Is he going to move in the box and somebody else moves back? So we'll have to see there. Woodson's had more opportunities because of it, and he's been good. So give him credit for that. No,
I'm going to write him down on a flashcard before I go to bed and just read his name over and over. Craig Woodson.
Who was the player there's some player's name I can never get right. So I had his name on a sticky note on my computer. So I just knew when
you kept saying Julius Peppers
instead
of
that I only did like twice. I had that down after like a day or two.
He did it twice a day.
I'll also add both kickers went 4 for 4. Both first time this spring that's happened. Still think it's Borgales' job to lose. He's been the better guy. He was a draft pick, all of that. He's been solid. So we have more coverage up on 985thesportshub.com. If you're listening to this live, my notebook is up now. We'll also have some more individual stuff coming. I'll have something on Drake May. I forget which one you're working on, Matt, but you will have something on.
I'll have things. Don't worry about it.
Matt has stuff coming. I know you were hoping to talk to Keon White today. So Matt has a Keon White take percolating.
I had Audible on that one.
We'll get it eventually. We'll get the Keon White take eventually from Matt. So 985thesportshub.com for all of that. And we will have another show. So the last spring practice is tomorrow. We got to figure out how it's going to work with timing. We're either going to do the show after practice tomorrow. If not, we'll do Wednesday afternoon, and that will be like a full big picture spring recap. So if you follow us on Twitter, follow the station on Twitter, on YouTube, subscribe to the station YouTube channel, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And you'll get notified when we do go live. So just a little flexible scheduling there. So until that next one, for Matt Dolloff, I'm Alex Barth. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time.